Hey guys! So today I wanted to talk about a topic which is kind of different to like the themes I've sort of been talking about, and that's why I love films. Because out of I think a lot of my my friends and my family, I wouldn't say necessarily all my friends, but maybe my school friends for example, I find that I probably prefer film over other kinds of media. That sort of traditional media, I guess. I mean, YouTube is something completely different, but I think there's a few reasons why I love films, and I think one of them is the fact that in a way you can sort of rely on the story to finish in some ways. So unlike a book or a TV program, for example, you sort of know that, especially with like standalone films, for example, after you finish the film, you know, the story is finished. Whilst if you look at a book, or a TV show. I guess TV shows are a bit better, but I think just the fact that it takes such a long time compared to a film is something that I really like about films, in the sense that, you know, you can finish them in a set amount of time, and I really like that. Another reason why I love films is because the way that you feel about them often changes, in the sense that whilst you're watching it, you may feel differently about it compared to in retrospect, and that's something I really love, because a couple of films that really that spring to mind on this sort of topic is number one, Birdman, and number two, Saving Mr. Banks, which I finished yesterday. And I think the really cool thing is, a lot of the time with these sort of films, in some ways they can feel sort of underwhelming whilst you're watching them, because you're watching it part by part, but then when you look back on it and you can see the entire story as a whole, it can make you feel so much better about it, and I just love that. I just love being able to see the masterpiece that is a film after having watched it and being able to reflect on it. Another thing that I absolutely love is the fact that it really creates an atmosphere, and it's not saying that any other program doesn't do that, because obviously everything that you experience, you know, evokes some sort of feeling in you, whether that's nothing really, or whether it, you know, really tailors, you know, a feeling and actually tries to make you feel a certain way. And I realised this when I started rewatching the Harry Potter films. I realised that a lot of the reason why I love the film so much is because of how homely they make me feel, because of the soundtrack. And I just love that a lot, I think, because it's just sort of, it ties a lot of elements together. I think another reason why I love films is because you get to see so many elements come together. So as I just mentioned, like soundtracks for example, but also scenery and the actors, and I just really love that, like, compared to books for example, like you get to see the actors really be able to show off what they can do, and I think it's just a testament to their own ability. So it just made me laugh, I think, because also yesterday I was watching Saving Mr. Banks, and one of the characters in there is played by Colin Farrell, but in this film, you know, he's Australian and clean shaven, and for some reason I also watched The Lobster quite recently, maybe during the last 2 weeks or so, and it just made me laugh that I completely didn't recognise him, and that's something I'm really enjoying, though I think in some ways that's sort of confusing me a bit, because, you know, with people you tend to be used to seeing them acting in one way, or you know you can sort of recognise them as a person, but it just made me laugh, and actually made me really happy knowing that, you know, that with films you can really create the story because of the fact that you can choose who you'd like to be in it, and you can really build it up, and I really like that. I think another thing that I absolutely love about films, and I think a lot of people around the world will agree with me about this, is the fact that you can learn languages from them. And I just find that so cool, because obviously learning languages otherwise can be quite daunting. I mean, I guess it depends if your language is person or not, but I do love the fact that through a story and through, you know, being able to engage with it, you can make this so much easier, and I absolutely love that. You know, the internet doesn't just have to be a place where we use Translate to be able to communicate with one another. You know, we can learn more about each other and, you know, connect on a more human level. I think the last thing I wanted to say about why I love films is the fact that some films, and I don't find this happens very often, like sometimes I think I'm left with questions, but there are some films where even though they don't give you all the details, it works so well not giving you all the details. Like it's still perfectly real and understandable. It doesn't necessarily, it doesn't necessarily have to be realistic and like life would be normally, but just the fact that, you know, you get a sense of closure after you finish the film because it's just so well put together that you just don't feel like you have to question your experience of it, and you can just leave it as it is, and that's really cool. Obviously that doesn't really happen very often. I mean, normally you get left with some sort of questions that you'd like to ask, and yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, and I do absolutely love you know, learning more about the characters and, you know, being able to do that whilst watching it and not necessarily having to take breaks, which you can of course. But yeah, I hope that made sense. I feel like I was rambling quite a bit, but that's a lot of fun. So I'd love to hear what you think about films, and whether you perhaps prefer, what kind of media do you prefer? Do you prefer books? Do you prefer games maybe? Do you prefer TV shows? What do you prefer? So thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful time doing what you're doing, and I will see you next time. Bye guys.